What's up, everybody? It's Troy Cartwright. Welcome back to another episode of 10-Year Town. Very important before we get started. Next week, we're going to be doing a Q&A episode. So if you have a question about publishing, about songwriting, about life, or whatever, you can submit your question at 10yeartown.com. And we're really looking forward to getting those answered on next week's episode. Thanks. Today's guest is the guitarist and co-founder of the All-American Rejects, Nick Wheeler. You know Nick from some of his iconic generational songs like Gives You Hell, Move Along, Swing Swing, Dirty Little Secret, My Paper Heart, and so much more. I really enjoyed this conversation with Nick. We talked about his journey of finding success at such a young age and what he's up to now. So without further ado, here he is, Nick Wheeler.
That was one of the deciding factors on whether or not my girlfriend and I got together for real was, wait, are you a subtitles person?
Really?
No? Okay, cool. We can do this.
Well, I'm telling you, from 10 years of relationship and 6 years of marriage, it can be overcome. Okay. A subtitler and a non-subtitler.
That's promising.
Yeah.
Two houses divided.
Yes. Although one person does have to defer. So I guess maybe I've decided to cave there so I don't have to cave somewhere else.
What about when you go to the movies?
Totally fine.
Okay.
No subtitle. Yeah.
What is
But who's going to the movies?
I love going to the movies.
You know,
a good old Sunday matinee.
I'll go for a spectacle. Like I went to Avatar as a 2.
I'm not just going to go willy-nilly.
Yeah.
Let's go to the movies. What's playing? I don't know. Oh, that looks fine.
Yeah.
I went to see Beetlejuice.
Good?
It's fine.
Yeah. Last thing I saw Dune 2.
There you go. Did you get the bucket?
Dude, I was at a I guess I was at a Regal, not at AMC. Somebody actually had already been to the AMC, had pre-bought
the bucket
mouth. and they brought it to the cinema, which I thought was great.
Well, they say no outside food or drink. What about outside buckets?
They seem to allow. It wasn't even the bucket. It was just the attachment,
just the fleshlight attachment.
Yes. It did seem very. It seemed very private.
Did they sit in the back?
Yeah. Exactly. That's so funny. Are we
start
good
yet?
Oh yeah.
Good.
Yeah, we'll just roll
That's
into
some good
it.
Shit.
You know? Well, dude, thank you for being here.
Yeah. How long have you been doing this?
Well, I was looking on my uploader, episode uploader, and you get an achievement at 75 episodes, and we're at 73.
Oh shit.
So, whatever, one a week, more or less. For
hold off 2 weeks so I can be 75.
Yeah. And I'll get the achievement.
Yeah.
It'd be amazing. But yeah, it's probably been a year. And I started, 10 or 12 weeks before we put the first one out.
Okay.
I didn't know completely. I had a vision.
Yeah.
I had a notion.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what I was doing.
You got a good title.
Yeah. It's the title. I think titles are important.
Oh, totally.
More important than I would have thought. Mm-hmm. But it's taken on a life of its own. So
it's funny, when I first moved here, which I'm coming up on 10 years.
Okay. I'll ask you in a second.
People were saying it was a 5-year town.
Oh, really?
Then a few years later, it was a 7-year town.
Mm-hmm.
And now
10.
Yep.
Might soon to be 15.
10. TM. 15 and 17, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah. Well, how long have you been in town? Since it's almost 10 years.
I officially moved New Year's Eve going into 2015.
Wow.
But I didn't want to do the whole sight unseen thing. I kind of wanted to get a vibe for the place.
Yeah.
I was living in LA at the time, but I'm originally from Oklahoma. I always have to
Yeah,
give the disclaimer. I did not move here from LA like properly.
Yeah.
I was doing time in LA.
Gotcha.
From Oklahoma.
Okay.
Quick pit stop on my way here.
Yeah. How long were you in LA?
5 years.
Okay. And then before that, were you living in Oklahoma the whole time?
Pretty nomadic before that.
Okay.
I stayed in Florida for a little bit. I did have a place in Stillwater, Oklahoma, my hometown. But like I didn't really put down roots. I kind of did in LA, I guess, but my shit was still all over the country. I had storage units in like 3 different cities.
Really?
And it wasn't until I moved to Nashville that literally everything I own is within these city walls.
Yeah, it's all here.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I still have one storage unit, but
where? Loosely, I don't need the exact address.
Everything is in East.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. You still have a storage unit. It's in Nashville. I thought you were saying maybe you still had one in Florida, just in case you needed to bug out.
Everything's here. But yeah, I did 5 years in LA. Perhaps I would have lasted longer, but my apartment was at Hollywood and Vine. So like right in the shit.
Yeah.
It was already getting a little nicer. Like it wasn't like the Hollywood and Vine that you see in like the Into the Great Wide Open music video or anything like that. The W Hotel was like catty corner, and then my neighbor was Capitol Records. Like it was a dope ass apartment.
Yeah.
But when we got off the road, when my band got off the road after 2012, I was doing like normal life stuff there, like walking my dogs on Hollywood Boulevard.
Just didn't seem right.
And they would like, I'd zone out, and then I'd see like, oh, one of them's eating fucking human vomit. Oh, like this isn't real life. I can't be here. So had I lived in like a normal neighborhood and had a little more of a grounded life there, maybe I wouldn't have expired so quickly.
Yeah.
But it was late 2014. I was like, I got to get out of here. I've always romanticized Seattle. I was like, maybe I'll move to Seattle. I don't know.
Yeah.
Went to Northern California, a couple other places, as far as I could drive, essentially.
Yeah.
Nothing really fit. And then I was hearing a lot about Nashville, so I came here, got a rental car, left the airport, and I needed dog food because I had my dog with me. So I pulled in to Spot Pet Supply in East. Okay. And pulled right into a parking space. I was like, oh my God, like, is this okay? Can I park here?
There's parking?
Yeah. So, and then after that, I went to Sonic, and I was like, this is home.
Wow.
Like, this is great.
That's awesome.
So I would come back every few weeks, stay in a different neighborhood, like a different Airbnb, just kind of get a vibe. I was basically looking for neighborhood, coffee shop, bar.
Yeah.
Like in each little pocket of town. And again, this was 10 years ago, so it's way different. But I mean, East always felt like home. So moved to East Nashville, did a few years south of town. And then as soon as I had an opportunity to go back East, I jumped at it.
There you are.
I love it over there. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, I was doing, my basic research for today's episode, and I did see that you were from Stillwater, and I'm from Dallas, and I started sort of in like the Texas country red dirt scene, which I associate so strongly with Stillwater.
That's I know a red dirt's an Oklahoma thing. Is it a Stillwater thing?
I mean, there's so much that started in Stillwater with like Mike McClure and like Stoney LaRue.
Yeah, he would come in the guitar shop I was working at.
I mean, dude, there was like there's a ton of bands that are influential in that scene that are Stillwater born and bred, which is crazy. So I'm curious, like, what was how did you get started in music? Like, your journey seems so insane.
It's really interesting because I always said there was no scene where I grew up.
Yeah.
Like, there's even in Edmond, where a couple of the other guys in our band are from, about an hour south. Like there's a big punk rock scene there. Like there were bands, there were venues, there were all ages places to play. Like that didn't exist in my hometown in Stillwater. So I'm always like, we were like the anti-scene.
Gotcha.
Like, it wasn't like Chicago or New York where like there were bands and they were getting plucked from those places because those scenes were hot. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right,
Like,
right.
For us, it was, what do we have to do to get the fuck out of here?
Yeah.
Because there's nothing going on here. But hearing like about the Red Dirt thing and all that, like that's crazy. I guess there was a scene. It just wasn't on my radar, and all the venues that you could play were
Right.
bars.
Yeah.
And I started playing music. I started playing guitar when I was 7, but like I wasn't like playing in bands until other kids,
Yeah.
you know, found music as well.
Right.
That's probably middle school, junior high. So like we weren't playing anywhere but, you know, our bedrooms at our parents' houses. Like we would just have band practice. We wouldn't really have shows. And if we did, we would have to put them on ourselves, like in the parking lot of a record store or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think we played like the parking lot of a Halloween store. We just had to come up with random places to play, a reason to get out and play in front of people because there wasn't a scene and there were no all age venues.
Right.
Eventually we did kind of get in the college bar circuit.
Okay.
We had to get permission slips from our parents
Oh
to
my
play
gosh.
the bars, which I don't even think that was real. But like when the cops would come in,
Yeah.
they'd be like,
Oh,
how
dude.
old are these kids? And we're like, we've got permission slips.
My dad said it was okay.
Yeah. No, but like we had these like written pieces of paper with their signatures, and cops would be like, okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I remember like in Dallas when I first started playing shows, I was like 14, and like we'd go to Deep Ellum. I don't know if you've ever
Oh,
heard
dude,
of that.
we've played Trees a
yes.
shit ton.
So you know.
Yeah.
And like, I can't believe, like, my mom would drive me down there in like the minivan, me and the band, you know.
Hell yeah.
I can't believe.
What kind of minivan?
Honda Odyssey.
Nice.
Yeah.
We were a Dodge Caravan family.
Okay.
Those fuckers broke down all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, the
Couldn't
Honda
tour in one of
Honda
those.
ran forever, you know.
Hell yeah. I drew a Honda CRV until like last year.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's a great car. So, yeah, so like how did you said you were just trying to get out.
Yeah.
Like, and this was what, 90
I mean,
I was looking at it, but I can't remember exactly. Like,
I graduated in 2000.
yeah.
So, you know, I started touring in 2001.
Okay.
But you know, I was playing in bands all through junior high and high school, you know, the late 1900s, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, playing mostly in Oklahoma, maybe a little bit regionally, you know, going down to Dallas. But it wasn't really until, you know, All American Rejects that
Yeah.
I got, you know, we were doing more, you know, more in Texas and Kansas and Missouri at that point, you know, driving up to Kansas City to play the Hurricane for $100
Yeah.
and a free pizza, and then driving home the same night.
Right.
Like that kind of shit.
Yeah.
That would have been like 2001.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then I guess at some point, like, you just got discovered. Like, how did that sort of like
Well,
happen?
I was always the guy with like the recording stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of got into the concept and the art of like how to capture music early on.
Yeah.
And I started with the whole, like, I had a dual tape deck with a little shitty microphone that I would like point at the drums. I'd play some drums, and then I would play it back through the boombox, and then put my amp near it and point the microphone at both of those speakers.
Yeah.
And like it sounded like garbage, but I was just fascinated with
The sounds.
overdubbing and being able to do all of that myself.
Yeah.
I eventually upgraded to a Porta Studio. I think a four-track Tascam Porta Studio.
Yeah, like a 414 or something like that.
I don't even remember, but it was still a cassette tape.
Yeah.
I do know that. And then I think once I finally graduated to the 8-track version of that, I was starting to record the bands I was in and then other bands in town. And I was fascinated with it, but I was also the only one that had that stuff.
Oh, okay.
So that just became part of my gig. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so all through the years, I would just record the songs that we wrote. And I want to say we did like a 5-song EP, you know, that I recorded on my Dell with Cakewalk, I think. And I would burn all the CDs, then go to Kinko's and use their paper cutter to like cut out the inserts.
Yeah.
And it was one of those EPs that, you know, I would just stuff in padded envelopes and send off to record labels. Because if you flip over CDs, there would be an address at the bottom
Yeah.
for the record label.
Yeah.
And I had a bunch of Get Up Kids CDs, so I happened to send one to Doghouse Records because they were on Doghouse. And an intern there actually listened to an unsolicited demo.
This never happens.
Never happens. It didn't happen 25 years ago, let alone happen now.
Yeah.
But they actually listened to it. They flew out to Tulsa and saw us at Curly's, RIP, and took us out to the old spaghetti warehouse and pretty much signed us right then and there. Wow. And they were like, cool, let's make a record. And we're like, we've only got 5 songs.
Yeah. Wow.
That iteration of the band, at least, which at that time was just me and Tyson, our singer.
Yeah.
I was playing guitar, he was playing bass and singing, and my Korg Triton was doing literally everything else.
Wow.
Yeah. So we had recorded that like 5-song EP with 4, all those songs ended up on our first record, but we had to then go spend the next semester because that's how we were marking time still.
Right.
At that point, writing the rest of the record. We wrote 6 more songs, then we went and recorded 11 songs, and that made up our first album. And we did that early 2002.
Wow.
In New York City with Tim O'Hare.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Did you...
For like $10,000.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Did you... like you're so green at that point. Like, did you have any idea like what it would turn into?
That's an interesting question. Because you want to say, no, I had no idea. Like, yes, we're fucking lucky. Like, we're lucky that some intern dug our demo out of the trash and listened to it.
Well, you made yourself lucky. You made yourself have surface area to receive luck.
Sure.
Which is an important...
We did the legwork.
Yeah.
We did the manifesting, all that. But I mean, for me, I guess the way I've been looking at it lately is rather than answer that question like, no, not in my wildest dreams, I'm like, no, it fucking had to go like this.
Yeah.
Like,
that's a cool way
I had
to think
no
about
other
it.
choice.
Yeah.
My hometown is small. It's like 30,000 people without the college. I had already dropped out of college at this point. I was the kid going to school in my hometown, living at my parents' house with no other drive or desire other than music and getting the fuck out.
Yeah.
So I was going to figure out how to make that work one way or another.
Yeah.
This band is my life and it's something that I'm extremely passionate about. And luckily that's the thing that stuck and, got me here.
Yeah. Well, so often, on this podcast, we talk about, I'll interview, mostly like, I guess you would call them like staff writers.
Okay.
And so part of the journey that we go through is like starting, moving to Nashville, and then like your first, like in most cases, it's like their first number 1 song as a writer. Right. And it's fascinating because for some people that's 2 years. For some people it's like 13, or more. And so, kind of in the spirit of that, like how long was it until, I guess, like what was the first like big hit that you had?
It would have been the first single on our first record, which that's lucky. But people are always like, oh, it seemed to happen overnight. And I suppose it did. Because once we finally got a record deal and made an album and, we got to do the video and it went to radio, all that stuff. We played a lot of music and we recorded a lot of music and we slept on a lot of floors and, played a lot of bars to nobody for years before that. But once we finally got an opportunity, it
you
worked.
Were ready.
Yeah. The first song on our first record did okay. I wouldn't say it was a huge hit. I mean, maybe it cracked the top 40, but our second record was probably it was certainly more significant.
Yeah.
That one had like 3 top 10 on it, I think.
Wow.
We were fortunate. Like every step of the way, it just grew and grew and grew.
Yeah.
Until it didn't. And
sure.
And then that's when we got off the road. My dog was eating puke. I got to get out of LA.
Right. And then you move
to Nashville.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like, what is that? I don't know. What is that like? Like talk about the journey of like being in Nashville. Like my perception would be, you know, you've done it. You did it. You did the thing we're all trying to do, which is like make a loud noise and have hit records and do all this stuff. But like, you're so young. And you're young when it's happening.
Thank you. I don't think I'm as young as you think I am.
Well, I mean, like you accomplished so much.
I did all of that. I lived a lot of lives in my 20s.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
and then my 30s was coming back down to earth, making up for lost time, fixing mistakes, going to therapy.
Yeah.
Moving to Nashville.
Yeah.
And then now here I am in my 40s, hopefully with a lot better head on my shoulders and just a more healthy perspective on everything. And it's interesting what you just said, like about how I already got to do what a lot of people are here trying to do.
Yeah.
Because when I moved to Nashville, my band never broke up. We never took like a hiatus, but we certainly decided to take a step back from doing the write a record, record a record, tour a record.
Yeah.
For 4 years, that is what that takes. And then do it again. We did that 4 times in a decade. And then that math is not correct, but you know what I mean. We did that 4 times in a decade, however that gets divided up. And we never slowed down. I remember I would only go home if I had 3 days off in a row. And that was rare that I would have 3 days off in a row between all of that shit.
Yeah.
So after 2012, we were just like, hey, you want to not do this for a 5th time? Okay. So we just all took a step back, focused on ourselves, careers, families, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when, you know, and another reason I moved to Nashville was I was like, what the fuck am I doing in LA? Like, I hate it here. Like, sure, it's great. There's great parts of that city. Whenever I go back, I go to like all my old, you know, favorite restaurants and stuff like that. Like, I'm very nostalgic for that period of my life.
Yeah.
But like, I wasn't doing anything. Like, I didn't want to leave because everything was annoying. Driving was annoying. Parking was annoying.
Yeah.
And everybody just seemed to not be going anywhere. Everybody was hustling, but not furthering themselves like outside of work or in their personal lives. And I think for me, I was like, I don't want to be in my 40s hanging out with a bunch of 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
Because like, that's what it felt like in LA to me.
You just mean like that's sort of like what the overall culture of LA feels like?
At least that's what it felt like around the people that I found myself around a lot.
Sure.
And so when I got here, I was kind of in the middle of defining myself outside of my band.
Yeah.
Certainly my band helped me get my foot in the door a lot of places, you know, and I already had like a publishing deal through my band. So I was able to come here and already, you know, have a connection in that.
Get some rights
area.
on the Cal.
Yeah. I mean, in 2015, it was still very country. Like, I don't feel like there was a lot else going on. And if there was, there wasn't a lot else industry-wise going on. That was the time when like I feel like everybody, including the country publishers, were like, what is this sync thing I hear about?
Yes.
But that was the only other thing going on. So yeah, I did my outlook coming here was like, I've only written songs with one person.
Yeah.
And I've done that for 15 years.
To great success, I would add.
Thank God.
Yeah.
And it kind of felt like, I guess it didn't feel like a divorce. Like I said, my band didn't break up.
Right.
But it was like, after all of this time doing it one way, like I have to start dating again. Like, what does that look like?
Yeah.
And you know, it wasn't easy, but I got a lot of cool experiences. And I found out what I love to do. I found out what I'm good at. I found out what I hate doing and what I'm not good at. And that was like the first, I'd say like 5 years of my experience here.
Yeah.
And then COVID. And it was during COVID that, you know, found myself in an opportunity to, you know, build an actual freestanding studio and like really focus on the production side of things, which, like I said earlier, I've always been fascinated with.
Yeah.
But then this whole band thing happened. And I had to be the artist.
Yeah.
and really got to focus on that. But I guess this is just a long-winded way of saying, when I got here, I kind of felt like I was starting over in a different area of my life and my career. And like I said, just kind of trying to define myself and figure out what my identity was, not being band dude.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I feel like with anyone, I'm sure, like I do have a love-hate relationship with Nashville and my experience here. Sure. But in the end of the day, I love it here and this is home. Yeah. I don't have a love-hate experience with where I come from. Uh-huh. I'm fine never going back there. You know what I mean? Yeah. This is my chosen home, just like my band is my chosen family. Yeah. And this is where I want to be. I think coming here and experiencing the hustle and the grind that is like the day-to-day songwriter thing. Yeah. I found out I'm not great at. And I don't really want to do that. Yeah. Well, what do you want to do? What do you like to do? I love being in the studio and making records. Yeah. And I take a long time to do that. I'm not shitting out demos every day. Like and I tried to do that when I got here. I was like, cool, I'm gonna do this. I'm here, like I'm gonna get this experience. I'm gonna try all this other stuff on. I feel like I've strayed very far from the original question. Not at all. Well, I mean, look, I think it's important to realize for everybody, when you move to Nashville and you're coming to Nashville to like do the thing, to do music for a lot of people in, my orbit, that's to write songs. But I work with a lot of people who like to write songs, who also are amazing producers. Right. And they're like, man, I'm afraid to chase too far down the songwriting thing because I don't want to be making demos every day. Right. They like to make records, which is a little bit of a different, it's similar, but it's different. And I feel like some of the people I talk to, they feel like almost like that their desire is wrong because they're not just trying to get a publishing deal to write songs and make demos every day. And I'm always trying to encourage people like, no, you're onto something. Find that thing, find that sliver that you love to do and build your life and your business around that thing that you love to do. And then you can play that game, hopefully for the rest of your life. You know, what does Ron Swanson say? Don't half-ass two things. Whole ass one thing. Yeah. And I guess, like I said, my long-winded response to your question earlier, I think, or your comment earlier, I think when I got here, I felt like I was kind of starting over, and I felt like I was hungry, and I am a driven and ambitious person still. Yeah. But I think I always forget that all of these people I'm working with and all of these artists I'm working with, or, a lot of the community here is, they moved here and are still trying to find their people or are still trying to have their break. And recently I was like, oh fuck, like, don't put so much pressure on yourself. Like, you're okay. Like you got to do that thing. You're still getting to do that thing. Right. And I mean, I found my people in high school, like, and luckily, we're all still together and this group project isn't over yet. Yeah. So I have acknowledged that recently, rather than get frustrated at my experience here being like, it hasn't worked yet. It's like, oh no, like, you're fine. Yeah. You can do whatever the fuck you want here. Yeah. And that's, I do acknowledge that, and that's a really fortunate place to be. So I've taken that and tried to just whole ass one thing. Yeah. If I meet an artist or work with somebody or have an opportunity to work with somebody, and we can do something really special that we're both excited about and it's a good fit, awesome. Yeah. But yeah, I won't I probably won't. I'll probably step back and let everybody else who's really good at it do the day-to-day hustle.
Yeah. And by that, you just mean like the hustle of like making demos or whatever.
Writing a different song every day with a different group of strangers and turning in a demo to meet somebody else's publishing quota because I don't have a deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, what does like a great fulfilling day for you look like?
I mean, it's simple. I probably won't leave my property now that there's a studio in the backyard. But I mean, when you get to do just your hobby, but your passion for a living, you try to find other things that you're passionate about because you can't just do music 24/7.
Yeah.
Some people, I'm sure, wish they could. And maybe some people do. A lot of people do here.
Yeah.
And I'm probably in a time of my life I did that too. But I'm trying to have more balance.
Yeah.
So I've gotten really into coffee. That's one thing.
Okay.
Nashville's got a fucking killer coffee scene. Just picked this up at Crema.
There you go.
Yeah.
Great coffee.
Yeah. Got really into coffee. Got really into cooking. I love going down to the Shelby Greenway, whether I'm riding my bike or, my dog that I moved here with just passed away, but loved taking him down there. That was amazing. That was like at least a weekly thing, if not more often. I do still like discovering where I live and like being a tourist in my city, whether it's trying new restaurants or just trying a different hike.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Just trying to find myself in those places where you're not doing music, but maybe an idea comes into your head because you're not thinking about music.
Yeah.
I think that's another thing. And I'm using the grind and the hustle of Nashville as a scapegoat. A lot of times I put pressure on myself that I have a studio. I should be in there working every fucking day.
Yeah.
No, I should leave the fucking house and go for a walk.
Yeah.
And be completely unstimulated.
Yes.
And then maybe something will pop into my head.
That's how you get great ideas by living life.
Yeah. Or
they come from
shower
nowhere.
Thoughts. Yeah.
They come from being bored, actually.
Totally.
Which is, we live in a time where if you want to never be bored, it is very, very easy to never be bored.
Oh, kids don't even know what being bored is anymore.
And I just think back on 98% of every good idea I've ever had is because I got bored.
Yeah.
Then
don't get me wrong. If you really, really dig in and you focus and you're like, I'm not leaving this room until I write a fucking song. Yeah. I don't know if it's going to be a good song, but I'm going to accomplish that today. And you set a goal, and you're like, I'm going to do that. That's great.
Yeah.
Sometimes that works too. Some songs come easy and some songs you slave over for a month to get just right. They're all different. But yeah, a lot of good ideas come from being bored or just thinking about other stuff. Or I just bought a scooter. I used to love riding scooters, like a Vespa kind of thing.
Yeah.
Actually, it's a Honda.
Okay.
Yeah. Still a Honda guy.
It all comes back to Honda.
But that's one of those things that, like, especially here with like Tennessee drivers, like you can't zone out. You gotta stay locked in, as the kids say.
Yeah.
And you're focusing on that one thing, not dying on Gallatin on my scooter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But because I'm so just like, I've got one train of thought, the rest of the mind can kind of wander and I don't know, maybe hear something.
I love that.
Or just, pull something else out of the air.
Yeah.
So I did miss that. Actually, once I got a dog, I stopped riding scooters so much because I didn't have a sidecar or anything.
Yeah.
And so I did just recently get a scooter again, and that's been a lot of fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Also, like I said, a reason just to leave the house and to not have any other choice but to not do music. And that's another reason I love going to the movies. Like we were saying earlier, like I got to leave the house and like go to a movie or something. Yeah. Otherwise I'm going to feel bad for not working on music.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes sense to me.
Yeah. But really all I'm doing is I'm living my life and trying to be fulfilled in all areas.
Yes. Live a whole life.
Yeah.
a full life,
Yeah.
as they say. Well, are there any, I don't know, like, are there any sort of like high watermarks along the way that you think fondly of, that you like recall, as just being moments where it's like, oh my God, this is like, I'm living a dream I had right now.
I mean, there was a lot, especially like in the 2000s.
Yeah.
And it definitely feels like another life.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm sure all of us look back at our 20s and we're like, who the fuck was that guy?
No doubt.
So there's a lot of those. And what's funny is, since moving to Nashville, I'll look back on all the times that I've been in Nashville, but didn't live here. And it wasn't even on my radar that maybe I would live here one day. And all the things I've gotten to do here that are pretty sweet. I mean, I remember rehearsing at Soundcheck in 2005 I think we were going on the Warped Tour right after that. It must have started somewhere near here. But I just remember, driving our box truck through this highway system and all the construction and being like terrified.
Right.
We were staying somewhere over by Opryland. I forget what hotel it was, but I do remember going to the mall and eating at the aquarium restaurant during that period. That was a highlight of that trip. I remember Bonnaroo was going on, so like the hotel was like, it was a scene. I think that was the Dave Matthews year, 2005. I forget. Anyway.
Yeah.
And then, I remember playing the Vans headquarters.
Yeah.
They were here. Are they still here?
I don't know.
Okay. And then we got to do this thing here called basically like a kind of a tribute show.
Yeah.
Where they would bring non-country artists in to perform country songs.
Gotcha.
And in 2011, we covered Mean by Taylor Swift.
Oh, yeah.
I remember we stayed at the Hutton. What is that considered, Midtown?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember riding in the elevator with Rob Lowe because I think he was hosting it. William Shatner was also at that hotel.
Wow. I saw CeeLo Green there one time.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, it's a scene, I tell you. But the show was really cool. I remember like meeting Lionel Richie and Joe Walsh and being like, this is insane.
Yeah.
Like, never thought I would be, at an event like that, but around these people and like for a matter of a few hours, like they were my peers. It was wild.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, years later, I'm like, oh fuck, that was Nashville. Like, I live here now.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
But yeah, like, and I remember playing. We got to play the Ryman in like 2003. That's another bucket list thing.
Yeah.
It was a silly tour. Who was that? It was us, Hoobastank, Ozo Motley, I think, was on that.
Wow.
It was back in 2003 when like rock radio was a thing, and you would hear my band, but then you'd hear like Stained. You know what I mean? Like
right,
on the same radio
on the same
station.
thing.
Yeah. So we were on this tour with Hoobastank, but we got to play the Ryman, and I think we were playing on a Sunday because I remember a lot of things were closed. Mm-hmm. I think even Starbucks was closed on Sunday.
Wow.
In Nashville, 2003. But I do remember that's when Groon was still on Broadway.
Yeah.
I remember stopping in there. I remember eating at Jack's Barbecue on Broadway. And I just the experience I had then is way different than the experience I would have now going downtown or going to Broadway. You know what I mean? So I'm glad I have that memory and it's separate from my time living here.
Yeah. It really is like almost another life.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of like Bizarro World,
Yeah.
But no, I remember vividly playing the Ryman because we did this part in the set where we had a B-side on our first record. This was our first record. Like I said, we made our first record with 11 songs, and that's the only songs we knew to play live too.
Yeah,
so our show was 55 minutes.
Yeah.
Those 11 songs, but there was a B-side, an acoustic song. We just called it the cigarette song because that's when the drummer would take a smoke break. And the name just stuck. It has nothing to do with the content or the lyrics of the song.
Yeah.
But the name stuck. So we would bring all this like shitty furniture out. I think we had a van seat. We're basically recreating our shitty house back in Stillwater, Oklahoma that we all lived in. Bring a van seat out. There was like a whiskey barrel and a big wagon wheel. Just like make this like white trash porch scene.
Yeah.
And we just go out there and play this acoustic song. And my guitar tech would light a cigarette. I don't smoke. I'm allergic to it. So I'm like, this is gonna be great.
Yeah.
Like, will you light a cigarette for me and put it in my headstock so it's just smoking the whole time? I'll just hold my breath for 3.5 minutes. It's fine. I remember doing that at the Ryman though, and walking out, getting ready to play this acoustic song with a you know lit cigarette, and somebody runs out after me and grabs me and is like, "You can't take that out there. This is the original stage." And I'm like, "Oh shit."
Oh my God.
But just the other day, I went and saw Bleachers down at the Ryman.
Yeah.
And anytime that Jack plays a song by himself, the whole rest of the band just goes and sits down at the back of the stage, and they're all smoking cigarettes on the fucking stage at the Ryman. Where's that lady now?
It's not fair.
Yeah. Couldn't have my moment.
You deserve to have your cigarette moment. Yeah. That's so funny, man. It's funny the things that stick out, you know.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I have great memories of visiting Nashville that, you know, now, like I said, living here, it's always fun to like, I mean, I guess I've been coming here for over 20 years now. So in the last decade of living here, I'd be like, this looks familiar. And then it'll trigger something. It's like, oh, that parking lot that we played for the vans, whatever, like that was the fairgrounds. You know what I mean? That's where I was for the flea market or whatever.
Yeah. 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 That's crazy. I love that. Well, I got one last question for you before we get out of here. And I always try and ask every guest this, but if you could go back in time to your younger self and give younger you a piece of advice for their journey ahead, what would you say?
That's another one that I've been like kind of reevaluating, because I love where I'm at. Like, I'm happy. I love that I've found and chosen Nashville. I love my home. I love my studio here. I love what I get to do for a living. Yeah. I love where I am in my life currently.
Of course.
So I wouldn't necessarily want to change anything.
Yeah.
Sure, maybe there are some things along the way that I'm like, don't worry so much about that. Don't focus so much on that or that person or whatever. Like, that's not going to be important. Yeah. But I don't know. I probably learned something, you know, from those
tough.
experiences.
It's tough because it's like I wouldn't want to say too much because there's so many lessons you learn the hard way.
You don't want to, fuck up the space-time continuum or whatever. I'm sure there's advice though that I could give my little neurotic self.
Or even just like somebody's getting started right now. They want to play music for the rest of their life. Sure. And they haven't started yet. Like, what would you got any words of wisdom for them?
Man, you would think.
Yeah.
I don't say yes to everything.
That's good.
Don't get guilted into things you don't want to do or be a part of. Learn to say no. Learn to take time for yourself. Balance is important, but when you are hungriest, and you're at the age where, you can lock in.
Yeah.
Fucking do it. And something I wish I had focused on more when I got to travel and got to tour. I didn't do much outside of perform the show. Yeah. I wish I had explored more. Mm-hmm. I wish I had worked harder when I wasn't performing, like writing songs, doing music. Of course, it was more difficult back then in the 2000s. Like you couldn't just plug a USB controller into a laptop. So yeah, there's just a lot of things that, like I said, I wouldn't necessarily do differently. Yeah. But looking back, I'm like, yeah, I would have tried to be more consistent with my output. But at the same time, like, just find what you love and just focus on that. Yeah. And don't put so much pressure on the stuff that maybe you didn't want to do in the first place, or you got guilted into doing, or, And also, yeah, just kind of enjoy the ride and where you're at, because some of, what does Andy say on The Office? Like, I wish I knew I was in the good old days when I was in them.
Yeah.
Or however the fuck that quote goes.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff that I look back on is the steps and, the falls along the way. And I don't know, like, I appreciate all of them. Like, they're all lessons, and they're all building blocks. And I do feel like moving here, I'm always trying to figure out my place in Nashville. Whether that, just like I said, I put pressure on myself to find my identity outside of my band when I moved here. Those things kind of went together.
Yeah.
But rather than just trying to work towards the next thing, just fucking enjoy the thing that you're doing today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At least that's what I'm trying to do now.
Yeah.
That's advice I should take myself. But
yeah.
Some people really, get fed off of that, off of never slowing down and being like, go, go, go.
Yeah.
go.
That provides them energy or something.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm more of an internalizer, as I learned in therapy this morning.
Yeah.
And I get fed by more like one-on-one conversation like this. And, whether it's a writing session or a conversation like this, or just working by myself in the studio, I like to have the time to reflect and just let it sink in.
Yeah.
The experience I had or the conversation I had, and I don't know, hopefully take something from it, and not just forget about it, on to the next thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I said, I don't know if that was advice or if that was just something I'm trying to do.
I think that's great. I'm with you, man. I'm very introverted.
Yep.
And I'm recharged by one-on-one conversation, staying home, watching The Hunt for Red October.
Hell
Just
yeah.
what I was doing last night. I loved it.
They made a book out of that movie.
Yeah. The accents are they change throughout the whole movie, but that's the sign of a great script, because it doesn't diminish the plot at all.
Was that on Michael Crichton?
Is that the novel? I think,
because he's Jurassic Park. I know that.
I think it might be Tom Clancy.
Okay.
I need to go read it.
Man, that whole era, like Tom Clancy, Michael Crichton, John Grisham,
big time.
Those guys can make a movie.
Oh yeah. Well, before we get out of here too, tell me a little bit about you have this studio.
Yeah.
What do you like? What do you do at like? Do you rent
what
it out?
What do you even do?
No, like is it just for your personal use? Do you rent it out? Like what do you want to see with the studio?
Yeah, it's one of those things that, like I said, during COVID, I really buckled down. I even went back to school just to kind of fill in some gaps with just all the engineering that I kind of learned on my own, or by doing, or by observing. I was like, I'm sure there's probably some shit that I missed. Like, there's probably some theory and shit that I need to know. So, I just really, doubled down on that. And then I had an opportunity to build a studio. So I was like, sure, fuck it, let's do it.
Yeah.
It's great for work-life balance. If you ever have an opportunity to not work in a spare bedroom like I have my entire life, it's amazing, because even though it's 40 feet away, that commute home it's huge. It's everything.
Yeah.
I did build it for myself initially, to my workflow, to my specifications. And, I've gotten to work on a lot of cool projects in it. I got to work on a lot of cool projects in my last studio, in my last house. But now, like, it's legit. Like, I'm really proud of the stuff that I'm putting out from there. And now, awesome. For the first time, my band came and we recorded a song there that just came out a couple weeks ago. It was a cover of Flagpole Sitta by Harvey Danger.
Yeah.
That was just a fun experience. And it was, not just a fun experience, but it just proved that, oh, fuck, like my other gig, my band can come here and do it. So, like, why couldn't other people also do that here in this space. So
Yeah.
I am going to start renting it out.
Yeah.
Slowly at first because
To trusted friends. You
yes,
know? Yeah.
yes.
I understand.
But yeah, I think that's the next chapter for the studio. Cause also like I'm touring more, I'm traveling more. My girlfriend lives in San Diego. Like, so I got this fucking space just sitting there. Like people should be using it.
Yeah.
So that's the next thing for the studio.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I love it. I love being there. I've got a B rig, coffee rig in the studio.
Yeah.
So I get to nerd out on non-music things there too. But yeah, I love that space. And I love the little compound I've created for myself here.
That's awesome.
I love it. And all that to say, all the things that I've discovered that I like and don't like after moving here, like it still feels like home, and I'm glad I chose it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Glad you're here. And thank you for
Thanks.
being here today.
I appreciate it because I was saying this earlier today in therapy. I don't feel like I was ever accepted in my hometown. I loved living, like being on the fringe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I wanted to get out of there.
Yeah.
I didn't choose my hometown. I chose Nashville.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I do feel, somewhat accepted.
Yeah.
And welcome here. It's a great place to be from.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thanks again. And that's it. That's the pod. See you later. Hey guys, thank you so much for listening. If you want to submit a question for one of our Q&A episodes, you can do so at tenuretowne.com. We would love it if you would join the Tenuretown community, which just means we'll send you updates via email about stuff we got going on. And of course, please rate and review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Wherever you listen or watch this thing, we appreciate you so much. See you next week.